So I'm recording in GarageBand.
Okay.
And I have 2 microphones going into this interface.
You're a pro.
And then I have the camera. Hi, audience.
Hello.
Going there. And then I put it all together.
I love it.
And I
You're
have this
such a
light
pro.
here.
Yes.
And then I turn my TV on a white screen.
Oh,
to add more
some
light.
It's a bounce.
Yeah,
It's your bounce
exactly.
light. I love it.
Well, I'm so excited
You're
to have you here.
pro. I'm so happy to be here.
I feel like I
in
have a
person,
celebrity.
IRL.
Yeah. Well, how many times have we met in person? Just at
Just
my
the one
show.
time, and when I came to your show.
When you came
and it
to
was
my show
so
in
brief
November.
because you were so overwhelmed with all those
Well,
people.
there were so many people afterward.
I know, and I just kind of barreled myself in. I was like,
And you
I
were,
need
but it
a
was
hug.
so exciting to see you.
I was loving it.
So you were on my podcast. I was looking, and you were on episode 24.
Oh, wow.
And now I'm on 49.
Wow.
So I'm getting there.
And I'm back, bitches.
Yeah. And I was just
I'm
listening
so
to
happy.
our episode, and it was really funny because I had never met you, and now I feel like
God.
we have way more of a rapport.
So much. And I was trying to remember, and I should have listened
Yeah.
to it too, but life goes fast.
Yeah.
It's bold, but it's moving.
Yeah.
But on that episode, was it focused about cancer? Like we
did a little bit.
So was I talking about that
Yeah.
at that time? Was that
When was that?
Yeah, I would love to know when it was in the
probably
journey.
was like late summer or early fall of 2020, maybe 2 or early
it's
2023.
crazy.
When were you going through all of that?
It started June 2022. I was in chemo
Okay, yeah.
during that time. I'm
Yeah.
curious to see, was I wearing a wig? Like I'd like to
You were
almost
wearing
know.
a wig.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So I was in it.
And you told a story about how
Oh, God.
you told a story about how somebody came up to you and asked you how you get your hair so perfect.
Oh,
And
that's
you said,
right.
"Do you really want to know my secret? It's cancer. I had chemo,
Oh my God.
and it's a wig."
That poor woman. I don't know
So
if
this
she's
is
recovered.
not. You're not wearing a wig.
No, this is my real hair.
And
It's
what is the update with that? Are you just
I'm
feeling
great.
healthier?
I
And
feel great.
Yeah.
And I will have to say that I never ever think, oh, I'm going to get cancer again. I have to
Yeah.
be worried about. I never think it.
Yeah.
Never. I go to those blood tests. It was quarterly, and now it's triannually. So
Okay.
it's like down to triannually. And I never ever think twice about it. I don't ever think I'm going to have cancer again one day.
Yeah.
And I know people, lymphoma is a recurring cancer. And a good friend of my mom went through it multiple times. So I think my brain should be programmed to think that it's going to happen again.
Oh.
But I will refuse.
Well,
I refuse to
remember
accept.
the thing that struck me so much about our first interview was you talking about mindset. And how you kept imagining, when I get out of this,
yes.
this is going to be what's going to happen. When I'm done with this, I'm going to be able to do this. And part of the reason I even asked you to come back was because of that mindset. And I'm really in a season right now of like, just kind of a lot of uncertainty. I'm running my own business with my photo booth business. I am doing my musical comedy. I'm doing my podcast, but I don't have like a day job right now.
Right.
And that just creates a lot of uncertainty and a lot of me being unsure of what's next. And I'm
You
taking
have to
that
think,
lesson. I'm like,
when I'm
once I
looking
feel
back-
more like this, once I feel more stable, once I get more gigs,
Yes.
then I'll be able to do this. And it is totally, my mindset is just
Yes.
totally that way, where it's
good.
not about, oh, this sucks right now, or like, oh, I wish I had more of this right now.
Right.
But the second I'm feeling more on top of it, the second I'm feeling more booked and busy, then I will be able to do this, and
Yes.
this. And it has really helped
It's
me.
the when, not if.
Yeah.
That is the word change. That
Yeah.
one word change
Yeah.
is so crucial.
Where did you even learn that? Is that just
I
who
don't
you
know.
are?
I think it's just who I am. Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't remember learning it. I think
Yeah.
it's always been that.
Is that something
It's always been that.
you would teach your kids when they're growing up, or is
I
it just
try
something
to.
by example?
I think now I think I tend to say it more because I have
Yeah.
more. There's a more tangible example.
Yeah.
I don't know if I knew that I was doing it all along.
Yeah.
I think now it becomes very tangible that it's
Yeah.
that I'm doing it. So now that I realized it, I'm like, this is how you have to approach it. When this is done, you're going to be at the end of it. Sometimes when I'm in the middle of a really, really stressful shoot and
Yeah.
it's chaos and it gets so overwhelming and I'm like, okay, in a week from now,
Yeah.
I'll be looking back at this. And it just calms me down. It's almost a way of meditating myself through it.
Yeah.
It just goes, okay,
It's rising above.
time's going to pass and this will be behind.
Yeah.
And it's so great to have that perspective.
Yeah.
Because it helps you when you're in it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like taking a pause. Okay.
Yeah.
We're in it. This sucks, but we're going to look back on it soon.
Yeah.
I just really like it as a mindset.
Huge life lesson.
Yeah. I did it recently on a TikTok where I posted about, I'm going to give a call out to my arms, but I've always been self-conscious about wearing sleeveless as I've gotten older, and that's always been like a body image thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized when I look back at pictures of me 10 years ago, oh my gosh, what was I thinking? My arms looked great then. So I've decided to take that mindset ahead, and I made a TikTok about this.
Yes, I remember I saw it.
Okay. And I said, I'm now going to think of myself as 83-year-old me talking to 63-year-old me instead of looking at it the other way. So now I always go, man, my arms look good for 83. You know, I always know, and it's not that I know that I feel 83. It's the opposite. It's like learning from your older self that you haven't yet met.
Yeah. I remember one time, the very first time I ever interacted with you online was you were live. And I said something like, you were live on TikTok, as you do, and I love going on your lives. And I said something like, what would you tell, maybe I was 29 at the time or something, what would you tell your 29-year-old self? And you said, do you want to imagine what you would have said?
You're not fat.
Yeah. You said, you're skinny. Like, just give it up. Like, you're skinnier than you'll ever be, like, whatever. And I remember just being like,
that's so funny that I don't even remember the moment, but I know that that's what I would say.
Yeah, right. So it was just really funny because I think that, to some people, talking about body image or whatever could be somehow superficial or somehow like, she should say, something more, but like that is so real that like at so 30 you probably were like so occupied by your body and like so like I'm not getting this opportunity because I'm fat or whatever it is. And so many people who are even 60, 80, 30, 20, like get so preoccupied by their bodies, and it's really hard not to. And so it would be a gift. I would love to go back to my 25-year-old self and be like, hey, you're fine.
Stop it, you're
and
fine.
Then the same way you're talking about now, when I'm 40, I might look back at my 30-year-old self and be like, wow, not only was he so attractive, but he was running his own business. He had an amazing podcast. He had on Helen Polise on his podcast, and he was an amazing person.
Right.
And it is really interesting to think about us being preoccupied by the body stuff.
It really, the thing is, I'm glad that I said that because I think people now are so afraid to talk about it because of what it calls up that in, on social media in particular, body shaming, and you don't want to. So it's interesting to me that, and that's when I say I'm just me and I'm authentic. I'm not scripting my things. I'm not. I just am who I am. And so if I really stopped to pause, I would have said, that's a very superficial answer, Helen. But I was honest as hell.
You were honest, and it was better.
Because it's true.
Yeah.
If the minute you start to change your answers for what you think people want to hear, if you're not your true self, and people see through that immediately.
I know.
Immediately.
I know. Well, one of the other reasons I wanted to have you on was because I was listening to your podcast with your daughter, Julie. And I love the two of you so much. And you guys make me laugh. And I don't know, I feel like because I'm starting in comedy and so is Julie, I think I can officially say I've been doing it for like 2 years, and you all just did an episode of your podcast where you talked about Julie's like first year in comedy.
Yes.
And I really loved that episode because, first of all, I love reflecting in general. I love being able to be like, I just did a year of this, here were the pros and cons, but I also just like love your guys' relationship so much. And I feel like in a way, like I put myself in Julie's shoes, and like you're my mom talking to me about like, your hopes and dreams for my comedy and things like that. So I think a lot of young comedians, and by young I mean 32, which is what I am now.
Yes, you're young. Very young.
I think a lot of people would get a lot out of hearing more about what you talk about with Julie, and like what you think about as her mother, as she is a comedian. You know what I mean?
Yes,
like,
because it's not a life I'm familiar with.
Yeah.
So I'm learning from her.
Yeah.
And there's a couple things I have to say about this. Number one, I met your mom, and I love her. And your parents are so supportive and so lovely. So let's give them a little shout out for 2 seconds.
They do get a shout out.
I love that because I've met them so briefly, but I watched them watch you, and I thought the whole thing was just so beautiful. So let me just say that sidebar. And then regarding the podcast with Julie, what I love when I do those is I'm a more of an in the moment person, and I'm a reactive and forward. I'm always moving forward. Julie is very insightful, and she really has a way of recapping or assessing what this and what that, and she's much more of a organized thinker than me.
Yeah.
I'm just chaotic.
Yeah.
Okay. She is so I love when she takes it and runs with it, and I learn so much.
Yeah.
And this is what I want to say intergenerationally, what we can learn, not just from random young people, from our own young people in our house, from our kids. And I always said to her, when we do this podcast, I hope people realize that it's really a real conversation. A lot of things we don't even talk about till we get on there.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, I saved this to tell you now because I don't want to get a reaction and then her have to re-react.
Yeah, right. I know. Well, a lot of times when I'm doing this podcast, well, the beauty of this podcast for me is that I meet a lot of people, and typically I've started off, I've kind of relaunched the podcast with a focus on comedy and with a focus on a lot of queer comedians coming on and being the guests. And a lot of times, because I noticed I'm meeting all these amazing queer comedians who have something to say beyond just their improv or just their musical comedy or just their stand-up. And when I invite them to come onto the podcast, I usually don't know them that well.
Oh.
And then I sit down with them and have this kind of deep conversation about living their life in bold. And then afterwards, like, we're instantly friends.
Oh, I love it.
And so I love using podcasts. Yeah, the numbers and getting an audience and someday getting sponsorships and whatever is the dream. But even if it wasn't that, I would still have people come over to just talk into a microphone.
Yes, because you get to know them in real time, and other people are on the ride with you.
Yeah.
So I will say to you, we were talking about something. You were like, let's just wait, let's just record, because we started to have a chat.
Yeah.
And then it was like, no, we're going right now, and I love that.
I've gotten better at that because sometimes I'll be listening to a podcast and the whole conversation is about, and we were just talking about that before.
No, I hate that.
And I'm like, no, I wanted to hear that. So now I kind of have gotten to a place where when someone comes over, I try to record as soon as possible.
Right. So smart.
Because, and I've heard that tip and I was like, that's
So
kind of
smart.
weird because they're just coming in and recording. That's weird. But then I realized I would be like, where are you from? Like, and then that should be on the podcast.
Yes, it should be on the podcast. And that's what she and I do on our podcast. We literally go, all right, wait, before we say anything, let's just record.
Yeah. And you have your own podcast, and then you have the one with Julie.
Yes.
So what was the decision making behind starting both of those podcasts? Like, what were the goals for each of them?
I love the question. So Julie has been the one who has pushed me about a podcast for a year before we did it.
Yeah.
And it was, what are we going to talk about? I don't know why I didn't have the confidence in the idea of a podcast for us, but it is such a good idea. We have such nice engagement on our podcast. And what I love the most is I have a lot of people who Instagram message me after they're listening to the podcast. So I get audio messages from people who are loyal listeners. Like, I just listened to it today. It was so relatable because me and my daughter this and that.
Yeah.
And then it's insane what happens. So I love it.
Yeah.
But what happened is I found out how much I loved podcasting and just having that idea of free flow talking. So when we've been working on this newsletter together, and we send out these newsletters twice a week, gives you tips, social media tips, strategy, how to grow your social media, all the things that I've learned. And I spew the insights. But I'm not a good writer. I am a video, okay. So she does more of the writing part of it. And then I realized, well, I'd like to elaborate more. And she's like, it's going to be too long. So her boyfriend, Steven, shout out to Steven.
Who's also so great on the TikToks.
So amazing.
Yeah.
He's turning into a really good editor, by the way. He's really good at editing. So he said, you probably should have a podcast that goes with the newsletter. And it was like the light bulb went on, and we tried to do it together. It was like the first episode was me and her together. I think maybe one or two.
Yeah.
No, it was it was virtual.
Yeah, okay.
But it was just two of us.
Oh, I see.
And then there was a time where she wasn't available, and I said, you know what? Twice a week is hard. Plus our third one. And we're coordinating times, and she lives in LA, so there's the time difference.
Yeah.
So I said, why don't I just record this one? I'll just record it solo today.
Yeah.
And then once I did one solo, I'm like, this is a solo podcast. We don't need to do these together because all I was doing was, she writes the newsletter. That's her thing.
Yeah.
Me talking through the things, that's my thing.
Yeah.
And it's like a perfect rhythm.
And how long has she been working with you on these things?
So it's been a full year now.
Yeah.
Which is a long, long time for us to work together. And that's why we said we wanted to have a recap of how is it working together. And she's taught me a lot about working together, because I am a 24/7 workaholic.
Yeah.
Because production has raised me to be that. It's like in my DNA now.
Yeah.
There's no, we're off now, we're at dinner now. No, the phone's there. And if somebody needs me for a shoot question, I'm here.
Yeah.
So she has taught me boundaries that I never had before.
Yeah.
And it's been helpful.
And you're across the coast also.
It also helps.
She's in California.
Yes.
You are in New York.
Thank goodness it's that way, because I'm up and I'm like powering out work before she even wakes up.
Yeah.
Then she opens up her phone when she wakes up and it's like,
yeah. Yeah.
Which is kind of funny.
And what made her decide to get into comedy? Was it something she just always
She never expressed an interest in this.
Yeah.
Never was a theater person in high school.
Yeah.
Nothing. No performance, no nada.
Yeah.
Quiet, shy. Funny in the family, though. Always the one like a little sarcastic, sees funny things in normal life. Mm-hmm. And she moved to California and she said, I'm going to take a stand-up comedy class. You had to see my reaction. Really? Oh. It was like when she told me I'm going to art school. She never was a drawer or anything. So I'm like, art school? Oh, so that's the second time she did it to me in life.
Yeah.
First it was art school. Second it was comedy.
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, interesting. And then she told me she was going to have this final performance. And I said, I want to fly to California. I want to see this.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden my husband's like, I think I should go too.
Oh,
and then Tommy, my other son, oh, should we go too? And I'm like, I think we
Everybody's
should all go.
Yeah.
And we were so impressed, because it was as if she had been doing it for her whole life.
Yeah.
And I felt the same when I came to see you, by the way.
Yeah.
Because I remember thinking, and I immediately called Julie after. I said, oh my God, I saw Ben from TikTok. I don't know if we met on TikTok first.
Yeah.
He was so funny, and it was so different, and I loved his style of comedy, and I could just see you guys performing together, and I was all amped up immediately.
I know. Well, that'll be the ultimate like fruition of our friendship.
Yes.
Is that when Julie and I do a show together.
I can't wait.
Yeah.
We are going to manifest that.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you this.
Yeah.
I know you're supposed to ask me the questions.
No, I love when people ask me questions.
So why have you considered producing your own show?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Have you done it yet?
I listened to your episode about how Julie produced her own show. I definitely have thought about producing my own show, and there's a few reasons. The money. Mm-hmm. You can
producer
make
always
more
wins.
money if you just produce your own show, because you're the one deciding who gets what, and then B, there's no producer who is taking a cut, because I'm the producer who's taking a cut.
Yeah.
And so I think that it just makes a little bit more sense for producing my own show, because I really do know what I want for my own show.
Right.
And I have been part of lineups and part of other shows. And I did a show in April that was really great. And it was a lot of musical comedy. It was a lot of queer comedy.
Okay.
And the show went really well, but there were just every moment I would just be like, oh, I would have done it this way. I would have done it that way. And when it was actually the moment that I got the money, like got paid, and I got the Venmo, and I was like, because there was a breakdown. There was a breakdown of who gets what. And I was like,
is that normal?
I guess so. Yeah.
But they would send a breakdown. So the producer sent the breakdown?
The producer gets this, the DJ gets that, the other comedians get this, and you get that.
That's transparent and nice.
Yeah. It was nice. And I was just like, oh, I see. Like,
yes, you saw the producer what they got.
Yeah.
By comparison.
I made more money than anybody. I was the headliner. I did 40 minutes on stage.
Amazing.
Everybody else did 5 or 7 minutes. But I was like, oh, this is interesting. Maybe next time I'll produce my own show.
Yeah, so financially and for control of creative outcome or and creative flow, right?
Just for the quality of the show also.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I can choose people who I believe are going to be the most entertaining and will flow the best with my own show. The
complementary thing.
Yeah.
And Julie will also talk about this in terms of audience, what the audience is prepped for. Because if you have one specific lineup, and in her case, a lot of times when it's heavily male comics, and she's one of the minority female in that particular show, the audience is primed more for male humor. Yeah. And they are usually, because everyone's bringing inviting guests, it's their friends that have their kind of humor. So then it becomes not so great an audience experience for certain comics.
Yeah.
Have you thought? Have you? Yeah. So you've thought about this.
I agree with that. I think that. So basically, the last time I did a show was April 4th at Stonewall.
Okay.
And it was so cool. I love performing at Stonewall.
Amazing.
And I think I was really ultimately the only person who did like hardcore marketing, just like really come to my show, texting people, emailing, whatever. And
so you had a bigger
turnout. My
audience
was the audience was like 40 people, and like 35 of them were there to see me.
Love that.
So I really liked that.
Stack it.
I will also say though, at the same time, because it's musical comedy and because it's a little bit more predictable sometimes than just stand up, having brand new people to my show is better. So like I have a good number of like friends who will come to every show, but once they've heard the songs a few times,
right, their reaction can't be the same.
Laugh at the punchline. They're just going to enjoy the show. So if I'm ever doing like a recording, because I like to put my stuff up on Spotify and my songs, if I'm ever doing a recording, I like to, if I can, be in front of new people. So like tonight, I'm doing a show at Greenwich Village Comedy Club.
Oh, nice.
And it's a queer comedy show, so it'll all be queer lineup. It'll be a queer lineup, and I'm close to the end, which I'm really excited about.
Like that.
And I'm doing 6 minutes. So I'm gonna do a song that I've written since you came to my show in November. So it's a brand new song, and it's about when I was 12 years old and I would answer the phone. I had like a womanly voice.
Okay.
And so people thought I was my mom on the phone. So like the song is about how my mom's best friend called the house and she just can't believe that I'm not Shauna. And it ends up being a really funny song, and it has a lot of heart at the end, because there's a line at the end. There's a few lines at the end that talks about if I could tell myself at that age something. It looks like similar to what you're talking about. I would say embrace that. Embrace what makes you different, because that's what will make you a star. And
love that.
It just is a really good flow, and it's one of my better songs that I've written.
And that's a newer one that you're going to perform tonight. So you'll hopefully get a reaction.
So I'll get a reaction
even from your usual people.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? They haven't heard it. That's always a tough one. I've noticed. It's so funny because I knew nothing about the comedy scene, and I feel like now I am so.
Now you're an expert.
I'm an expert in the comedy scene. I'm an expert at social media, but I'm also an expert in comedy now. But it's so interesting to learn from Julie, from what she's going through, and understanding, like, who knew bringers and all these terms.
I know. Yeah.
I didn't know any of it.
Yeah.
But it's so interesting to see from her standpoint. How she's working new bits into her comedy, but she knows that certain ones always land. So she definitely wants to keep that going. Like, use the ones that are going to land. Also, I love being in front of I am in for whatever has to happen. And I'm like, please, like, make more jokes about me, because I don't mind being made fun of at all. I love it. Yeah. So she has a good time with that. But I love how she's constantly writing new material, because that's the same thing. There's a couple of people in her circle who just keep performing the same show over and over and over again. And now even she, as a supporter to, let's say, friends, she's sitting there watching the same shows over and over again.
Yes, right.
And so most of her friends actually write new material, so that's nice. But there was just one in particular she mentioned. Yeah. And she's like, after a while, I can't even go because I know it's just going to be the exact same. Don't change anything. Yeah. And that's not even evolving as a comedian.
Well, that's so funny, because I when I was first starting, I was doing the exact opposite, where I would sign up for an open mic and I would write something new and then go perform it, and I would just perform something and then put it on social media and throw it away. But I realized that there is a balance, because you have to keep working on the jokes and keep like trying to make people laugh and like sharpen the story.
Yes, and you're a storyteller too, which is good.
I do love telling a good story.
Yeah, she's a storyteller.
But if you're doing it to the same like, I'll go to my friend Jimmy has a really great show called Jimmy and His Box of Crayons, and it's at Stonewall, and he'll do a lineup of like 5 or 7 queer comedians who come up and do 5 or 10 minutes. And there's a couple people that he's booked a few times, and because I go to all of his shows, I'll see them a few times, and I'll see them like 6 months apart, and they're still doing the same thing. But it's kind of funny, because you can do that.
You can, because
if there's a new audience.
Yeah.
But then by the time you're doing it to the same people, they're going to notice, and they're not going to laugh the same way.
Yes,
so as the comedian, you have to really balance that.
Yes, it's a balance.
I once saw Chelsea Handler.
Oh, wow. She's funny.
And I've seen her a few times perform. I once saw her in Nashville, and then I saw her at the Beacon Theater, and she did some of the same stories she would tell on podcasts.
Oh my God.
And so I'm a big fan, so I listen to all her podcasts, and then I found out when I got to the show, oh, I've heard this, oh, I've heard this, oh, I've heard this. And I realized, like, I wish she would not tell the stories on podcasts, because then I could go and hear the stories for the first time. So it is a balance.
It is a balance. There's also the posting things on social media in general.
Yeah.
That's a problem. Because in the beginning, Julie even said to me, well, I don't want to post all of my bits because then people won't, when they come, they're going to see the same things they saw on social media.
Right.
And that's another part of it.
That's
when I was saying to her, and we talked about this a little, because I think sometimes her TikToks are just funny, random things. Like she does trends and she makes them funny. And I'm like, try and focus more on that for social media, so that you're still kind of being your funny self, but you're not wasting your material and putting it out there. For other people to steal, which you got that problem.
I've seen some of the people that I admire on social media, like on TikTok and stuff. They will do something specific on social media that's not what they do on stage, but it's still the same kind of
vibe
humor.
or some.
So like I get a lot of people when I do my microphone interviews in Washington Square Park. That is probably some of my most popular content. For some reason, it's just so hard to just go out and like do it alone. So I need like someone to go with me.
Oh, yeah.
But like when I get to go out and interview people in the park, that's like always my most popular.
That has to be our goal, to set a date to do that together.
We should do it.
Because I look for you every time I walk through. And I walk through there often. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, I hope he's here today. And I look around like one of these days I'm going to manifest you.
I want to be like the king of Washington Square. I want when you go there, you're like, where's Ben? Yes. I already have that with you.
Oh, I can't wait.
But I do like people, posting stand-up clips is one thing. Like, I notice a lot of the famous comedians will do it, like, once they have a special out.
Yeah.
They'll post it to promote the special. But then you kind of have to have something where you're actively doing something on social media.
Yes, consistently. Because that's how you're going to get growth.
You're going to grow an audience. Like, there's this one guy who does stand-up. I wish I could remember his name, but he has a shtick on TikTok where he makes fake accounts on Facebook and emails like news agencies or like political campaigns and stuff like that, and ask them to like confirm a quote or something. So he'll email like, I don't know, just because it's popular right now, he'll email like Joe Biden's campaign, and he'll come up with some crazy quote that Joe Biden would have never said and say, can you confirm that he said this? We're going to publish it tomorrow. And then they'll say he didn't say that, and then he'll just kind of go back and forth.
Oh my God.
And it's a funny little series that he does, and I don't know if he does it in person, but I think it's really interesting to see when people can find something that they can do on TikTok.
Yeah, just be that and do that consistently in a way. So maybe finding that, whatever that is. I know what you're saying, but your Washington Square Park stuff, that could be that.
Yeah,
really.
Exactly. I like doing the Washington Square Park stuff. I like doing the sketches.
Yeah.
And then if I post, how a lot of comedians will post like crowd work. I don't do a ton of crowd work, but sometimes I will say something random on stage. So even when I film all of my sets, if there's something that I said or something that
isn't part of a set,
it's not part of it, then I'll put it up.
That's good.
And then, I noticed that in the beginning of when I was doing social media and live performing, I would put up the songs, and that helped get some awareness. But if I post a song today, no engagement, because people have seen it.
Oh,
like,
I see.
He's on stage singing another song. It's not the same. It's not like, oh, Ben's performing. Wow. It's like the kind of the opposite, where it's like, if it's not,
it's old news now
brand
in a way.
new,
Yeah, it's old news in a way.
and it's songwriting. So like you can't write that many new songs every week, and so sometimes I'll put up a brand new song and I just kind of get it out just to make people know I'm still writing new songs. But I noticed that if I can do a sketch, or if I can do the microphone stuff, that's like the best stuff to put on my Instagram and TikTok.
That's good.
Yeah.
It's so funny because I'm like my creative juices start flowing. I'm like, what are some ideas that we can we can workshop?
I know.
It's almost like you want to workshop something. And
here's a question I really had for you though, around trends versus like the original content. Like I don't do a lot of the trends where I use a sound and I put text and stuff.
That would be so useful for you.
I know. I know, but I don't know why I think that I used to do them, and I guess I just enjoy so much more doing the original, like taping something and like writing something and all of that. But it is
but like, hold up, why not rotate into your mindset and say, maybe I'll do one trend a week and just see what happens?
Yeah.
Because there's a couple of reasons.
Yeah, I'm ready.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
Number one, you're funny. So I sometimes struggle with the trends because I'm not innately funny.
Yeah.
So I don't really have, how can I make this funny in my world? I just don't, it's not natural for me. So you would see a trend and probably immediately think of a funny thing.
Yeah.
Because you're wired that way. Yeah. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, typically the trends are getting views. I'll notice when I post a trend, I'm like, this is absurd. Why is this video doing so much better than my other video? It's because that has been swept into the tide. Yeah. So you might just have a little more engagement on something so you could find new people. Yeah. That's a big one. Yeah, right. And the other thing is that because you have a creative brain, you can take a trend that's meant for a boyfriend, girlfriend, a lovely thing, like, that selfie one, and you can flip it around. Like, there's a trend right now. I'm going to date ourselves because I don't know when this is going to come out. But right now it's like, I took a selfie every time I felt pretty. Yeah, right. And then there's a bunch of selfies. So you could even do it something like, I took a selfie every time I got laughs on stage.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay. And then you're going to post your photos, and it could be an audience shot or a view shot. So it's those trends they're going hard because I see them every third video.
Yeah, I know. You're totally right. I think as you're talking, I think it's similar sometimes to how I feel about Halloween costumes. Oh. Because I get so...
You're so into it something?
No, I get so stuck on Halloween costumes. Because everybody's doing a Halloween costume. Everybody's going to be funny.
And you want to be funnier
reason, I need to be the absolute standout Halloween costume. And I just can't.
For some reason, frozen.
I'm just freeze, and I'm like, I'm just going to be a jack-o'-lantern.
You can be a funny jack-o'-lantern.
I know, but I think in
be a Jim-o'-lantern.
In my adulthood, I've noticed with Halloween will come up, and I'm like, what am I gonna be? What am I gonna be? And I just can't. It's just a brain block.
Okay.
And so I think it's similar with the trends where I am incapable of just doing the exact trend. So like, you're totally right that I should apply it apply it some other way, or like come up with something creative to say. But I think when it's something that everybody's doing, I tend to freeze up a little bit.
Right. Okay. Let's have perspective on this. Yes. Because I have a very similar... I'm an oldest, so I'm a firstborn. Okay. And so I'm like the overachiever. Yeah. So I also have the problem. Like, if I'm going to do this transition, like the swish thing, hair thing, mine's going to be better than everyone's. Okay. Yeah. It has to be the best, and that's part of my, we have the same, I think we're very similar in that way. But what I realized is when I even do a mediocre one, because of my skill set, it's actually funnier. Yeah. It's actually better than a lot of the ones that are getting a lot of views because they're bigger creators maybe or something. But it's because I do have that skill set. Yeah. So it is, even though it seems mediocre to me, it is amazing to other people.
I'm going to try this.
So even though you think, oh, this isn't that funny. Yeah. It's only because you have high standards for yourself on how funny it is or whatever. Yeah. I don't even think you have to try to be that funny. Yeah. I think it's almost like the opposite. Try to be like everyone else. Yeah. Be mediocre.
Right. But
shoot for mediocre on the train.
Yeah. But you know what? I am feeling something unlocking a little bit because...
so we're workshopping.
Yeah. I love it because I do think sometimes, like, for example, there's... Chapel Roan?
Yes.
Are you aware of Chapel Roan? So she has her song Pink Pony Club. And I love that song so much. And then, SpongeBob, there's the character Plankton. Do you know that character?
Yes, of course.
So there's an AI.
I have kids your age. Yeah. Don't forget about it.
So there's an AI cover of Plankton singing Pink Pony Club.
Oh, my God.
And it's basically has like maybe at this moment has like 500 or 600 videos, so not that many.
A lot. Not
but there's people making a video that says they use the sound and they just sit there. That's the other thing is like you don't a selfie. They just kind of sit there and
seems lame.
Sit on camera and like write something, but they all write the same thing and it says like this song is not trending. You're just gay.
Oh my God!
And there's only 600 things. So you something like that. There's only 600 videos. So the only reason you think this is trending is because you're just gay.
Oh, that's
or something
so
like
funny.
that. And
just put that up there.
I know. So I could do that. But I think the other way I need to think outside of the box is like, I don't have to do a selfie video for that.
No.
I can use it and go to the park and sing that song, you know, or do something, because the other thing that I get hung up on is doing things either that are selfie videos or that are in my apartment. So now I've done my apartment to look a little bit more exciting, but so I noticed for a while, if I just hold my phone up and talk in my apartment, it would be low engagement, and it would just be like not as exciting as being outside.
Okay.
And being
fair
in New York City at the park. I know I have a friend who says just being in New York makes it more engaging.
Absolutely.
Just being in
I
New
have
York.
the same. I have the same stuff on situation on my content.
Yeah. And so I do try to like go out, and now that it's summer, I can do this more often. But like I have no problem bringing my tripod, setting up the camera.
Who cares who's looking?
Yeah, I know.
Who cares?
If they're looking, like I should give them a card, you know?
Exactly.
But I think that sometimes I get hung up on, am I really going to sit here and hold my camera on my couch and look at the camera and then type something? Right. And I know that they do well.
Well, this is a great backdrop to do it. So I don't know. I say set it up and do it.
Yeah.
But the other thing is you're already putting more pressure on yourself that you have to do it outside or be different. Yeah. You don't. You have to, you know, dial back down and say, I want to say, not that I want to say quantity over quality, because I'm never a fan of just slapping shit up. But sometimes that if you let yourself have a pass, like once a week, I'm just going to make sure I do a random thing. I have a thing where I just make sure that I'm posting something every day.
Yeah.
And you would think that's absurd. How do you keep up with that in your whole life? I mean, I'm going to be on a shoot for one day. Guess what? I will be posting something every day. Yeah. And I don't know how it happens.
Yeah.
And the day sometimes almost is all over, and I'm like, did I post anything yet?
Yeah.
Oh, I guess I did that yesterday. Let me post something. And I either make something quick, or I look in my phone for a couple of photos.
Yeah.
And I just make it happen because. Yeah. And it's not a huge commitment, and I don't think every video is going to do great.
Yeah.
There's creators who write me. And that's absurd. Some of them are like, oh, yeah, well, I delete all my low-performing videos. Or I private all my low-performing videos. I want to say that is egotistical and silly. There's no reason to do that. So your page looks great? Like every video has thousands of views? Who gives a crap? Obviously, you care more about views if you do that.
Yeah.
And I care more about my own fun and sanity and joyfulness, and also being there for the people who have chosen to follow me.
Yeah.
They're on the journey with me.
And I love it. It's inspiring when I think when you can do something and be vulnerable, it helps other people decide to be vulnerable and go out and actually pursue something. Because if I only put out the videos that have over 1,000 views or something, then they're not really seeing the real picture of what my creator journey is. Right. And they are thinking, oh, well, Ben, everything he does turns to gold. So, like, I'm never going to be Ben.
But,
like, if I post something and keep something when it has 197 views.
Let people see that we just all have shitty views. Who cares? Oh my
I remember
God.
one time, back to our body image conversation, 2 summers ago, I got invited to a pool party. And out for my whole life since 6th grade, I've always just been like, I'm not going to the pool party. I'm not taking off my shirt, sunscreen, sun, the whole body image stuff. I hate it all. But I really wanted to go to this pool party because it was like a work thing, and I was new in my job, and I just really wanted to go. And I talked about it in therapy about, you know, I just want to just go and like take off my shirt and be in my bathing suit at the pool. And I was thinking all of these different things, like if I do it, then I'll have fun. If I do it, then, you know, I will get to enjoy the pool party and I'll make more friends at work and whatever. But the thing that actually convinced me to just go and just do it was because I was like, maybe if I go to the pool party and I take off my shirt and I just go in the pool, everybody else will feel more confident to do it themselves because they might be thinking, oh, Ben's doing it. You know, like he's not even worried about it or something like that. And just making it an environment where
you are causing the change, or you're helping. It's like helping people feel. This is a big part of. One of my colleagues has said that my what do they call it? My not secret sauce, but whatever.
Oh, your
sweet secret ingredient.
Secret ingredient.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Is
special sauce
that I like to help people feel seen.
Yeah.
And that I never even knew that about myself.
Yeah.
Okay. But since being made aware of it, I see the things that I do that actually do that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, I do that consistently.
Yeah.
And that's such a good thing to help people feel seen.
Yeah.
I'll attribute it to like on a commercial set when we're, there's a big crew and everybody's there. You got a DP, you got high level people and director, producer, and then there's PAs and they're running around doing stuff. I have always, not even without knowing this about myself, I have always paid attention to the PAs and made sure I found out their story or find out, oh, what are their goals and what are they doing? Because I mean, I was there once. I was an assistant way back when. And so I always take the time to talk to the PAs. And somebody pointed that out to me. Oh, Helen, you always manage to talk to the PAs. And it was a director friend. And I said, I don't know, some of them have really cool stories. And I'd just be curious where they're headed. So I think that is a huge benefit to you as a person, because it's part of your skill set and how you're impacting other people. So you're making an environment feel comfortable for other people to be themselves.
Yeah.
That's good secret sauce.
I do think that's part of what I want to do in life, is just help people feel comfortable, help them celebrate themselves, help them feel like what they're offering is worth something.
Yes.
And and I love doing that in any way. And that's with my photo booth. I really love. So I have a photo booth. I go out to parties and I run the photo booth.
Love it.
And what sets me apart in the photo booth is not really like the technology,
right?
Or like
everybody can have that,
or whatever. But like I'm sitting there being like, yes, yes, okay, now do this, do this, and celebrating them and making them feel like, wow, like I am really rocking this photo booth,
right? Because you are making shy people like step up, probably because you're making them feel comfortable.
Yeah. And I feel
you're
like
directing. You're
directing,
a director. You're a director.
And I'm getting better photos because of it, because people are actually laughing. They're encouraged to try on a prop, even though it's a little bit silly.
Right.
And then they love that they're wearing a prop.
That's so fun.
And then I just feel like that's why people have me back ultimately.
Gosh, I love it.
Because it's entertainment, but it's also making people feel good about themselves at your party.
Yes.
So that is what I try to do, even with my comedy too.
That's great.
What do you
That's great.
What do you feel like so you're helping people? You're helping people feel seen.
Yeah.
Now, what else do you do?
Oh gosh, that's a funny question. I don't know. What do I do? It's so funny because I was going to say tomorrow, as of this recording, I'm going to be on a news station, and I get calls for this often. Yeah. Because once you have a label attached, and then people Google the label, you know what I'm about to say. So Grandfluencer. Oh, we're doing a segment on Dr. Phil's network tomorrow. It's for Dr. Phil's network.
Oh, yeah.
Grandfluencers. And I'm like, wah, wah, wah. Like immediately I get excited. Oh, I'm a producer. And then wah, wah, Grandfluencer. And not because I don't think I'm old enough to be a grandparent. Obviously, my kids are old enough. They're your age. They could have kids and I could be a grandparent. It's not about that. It's about the fact that it's the label that no other influencer age. That it's not Gen Z influencer, millennial influencer, Gen X influencer. It's not any of that.
Yeah.
But as soon as you're over a certain age, you're like a granny, and it's always had a negative connotation, being like, "Oh, don't be a granny."
Yeah.
So that's why I don't like it. But I'm trying to move past it and say, I'm gonna each time I get asked, I'm trying to use it as an opportunity to educate people.
Right.
And so one of the questions tomorrow is something like, "Did you ever think you would have this type of influence?" And why do you think it's important, or something like that? I forget the question. But my take on it is, I think the more people that are older put themselves out there and become visible, it changes what people think of as aging. And so no one's calling me a granny. When I'm on set, I'm like the TikTok expert.
Yeah.
So typically they're like, where's the TikTok expert? And when I walk in, they're all like, oh, it's you? Yes, it's me. So I'm enjoying that.
Yeah.
But I also think it's changing how older people have always been viewed. In commercials, it's always like the granny in the robe and she's like eating her cereal, and that's like a 60-year-old person. I would never be. That doesn't represent me. I don't relate to that.
And it's like,
I hate it.
That's the first generation who's ever been called a grandfluencer.
Yeah.
So it's almost like you could just nip it in the bud.
I know. I'm going to stop it now.
But it's like, be the one to be like, by the way, let's change the title of this. Or like, by the way, you're talking about grandfluencer, and you're talking about, I think it's kind of like grandma, where maybe it's like people think of a grandma as, whatever they think of a grandma, but like a grandma who wears a makeup and has great fashion and whatever is a grandma.
Yeah.
So maybe grandfluencer
I'm trying to change.
Is heavier than the gram.
Yeah. Well, I'm trying to change my mindset.
Yeah.
Because there are things, and I say this all the time, you can't always change things.
Yeah.
But you can change how you view the thing.
Yeah.
So I have really been trying hard as it's my own personal exercise to not want to answer that question and say, I don't like the term gramfluencer, because I immediately want to say that.
Yeah.
But instead, I'm going to turn it and say, I think it's going to change how we're viewed.
Yeah.
When I am with PAs on shoots, a lot of times I'll spend some time with them, and then they'll talk about something, and they'll say, I forget what they'll say, something about their mom, and I go, oh, your mom, oh, she's probably my age. And then they find out that I'm older than their mom.
Yeah.
And they're always like, what? Because I have young energy. It has nothing to do with, they don't see wrinkles on my face. They don't see aging skin. They see a person's energy, because young people don't see age as much. I don't think they don't think of it as in that way. So for them, it's an energy level, and I feel young energy. And so I don't think it's negative to want to feel young. People are like, oh, I don't like with the term, be younger or make you look younger. I'm like, why not? We want to feel younger, right? I don't think that's necessarily negative. I'm not doing Botox or any of the things to physically make myself look younger, but my energy level is that of a younger person. I know it. I feel it.
And it's like it's a self-acceptance of like, this is what I am, and this is like the energy that I'm bringing. And my age is irrelevant for that.
It is irrelevant. And I have so much fun with young people. I really do. And so it's okay for me to say they're young people, and that's not an insult. So why should it be an insult for me to be called an old person?
Well,
I'm trying to accept it.
Well, but there is a people, I think there is a transitioning perspective of age, and so you can totally be a part of that conversation.
Yes, I want
because to. I think even like even with like a lot of the politicians being 80, 85 and things like that, there's a big conversation happening about age because there basically there are a lot of people saying it really shouldn't be about age. It should be about what can you do, and are you able to kind of stay on top of things and be aware and stuff like that. And it's a really interesting conversation, because maybe before people would say, oh, everybody should retire at 70 or whatever. And now I feel like there is kind of a conversation of people being able to, and as the economy, gets harder and harder to survive in, people will probably have to work longer and longer.
Yeah, that's it.
And so I think people will have to accept that they need to be more youthful throughout the rest of their life.
Yes, and bring the young energy.
Bring the young energy, because I think you have a big opportunity to be like a big voice in that.
You know what's really great is when I'm on these meetings, that sometimes I'll be invited to a Zoom call with an ad agency about a shoot coming up, and I don't even know if you know this, but probably if you listen to my podcast. I've had some interesting opportunities because I've been a commercial director, producer for my whole career. And then you get to a point where directors, people want to work with young directors and new vision and all of that. So in a sense, I could be on the sort of downswing, but because of what I've done with social media and what I've done with my TikTok and creating that whole presence, I'm now the expert on the social media. So now I'm bringing that to the shoots. I have people contact me. They don't even need me to direct the commercial. They have like a special hair director directing a commercial, but they want me to come and shoot the TikToks with me and my phone. So I get sent on these shoots now where it's just me and my phone doing the TikToks. But the part of the story is, so the meeting starts, and now I'm on a Zoom call with a big production meeting. Sometimes there's 20 people on these calls, and big Zoom calls, and lots of faces, and people are there. And somebody will say, okay, well, as they're introducing, and I know that visually I would be I don't want to say discarded, because that's a bad word, but maybe not regarded, or just felt, who knows visually what someone would think. They'd see an older person and they think, oh, probably an executive producer, somebody listening in or whatever. And then someone will introduce me as the TikTok expert. Oh, and then somebody will say, oh, she's the TikTok expert. And somebody says she has 1 million followers. When I tell you, the tone of the room changes toward me. That it is, I have goosebumps when I say it every time, because it's a study in relevance and how it does not matter how old you are, because suddenly I became not visibly younger, but I became more relevant to the meeting than a lot of people in that meeting.
Wow.
It's so cool every time to see it happen.
And you're just
I love it. I was like, yes, that's right. I have 1 million followers. And the thing is, I'm not like all about it about myself. Totally. I'm as excited about it as when I'm telling somebody for the first time about anything.
Yeah.
Like when I had like, oh, I have 1,000 followers. Yes. That's the same way I am about it. And I'm like, do you know I have 1 million followers?
Yeah.
I'm into it in a way that I'm excited, not in a way that I'm like bragging. I have 1 million followers.
Right.
I can't explain the difference. I think you know what I mean.
I get it. Well, one thing I'm curious about is, do you feel like on that journey to, and I think I looked today, you have 1.1 million.
Yes, 1.1, which is crazy.
And I'm curious, do you feel like you, obviously you have strategy and being authentic and keeping and kind of sharing your story, and you're such a good storyteller and producer, but do you feel like there's like things you did along the way
strategically
to grow the following beyond just having great content?
I'm going to say yes. Yeah. And I will tell you what the focus has always been, because I do teach this. I teach the workshops, and I'm always talking about this in the workshops, which is when someone discovers me from a video, when they come to my page, they can see personality, lesson. Yeah. Oh, personality. Oh, family. Lesson. Yeah. I have consistently made sure that even if I'm caught up in a fun thing, graduation, wedding, my son just got married, and I'm posting, and I want to post tons of videos of that, I've consciously make sure that every fourth video or so is a TikTok core tutorial, is the teacher. That sticks with my thing. Yeah. Because otherwise, you could lose people that could come over and go, oh, she just had one lesson, whatever, and now I'm not going to bother to follow. Yeah. So what I think the follow is for, I think people follow me because they're like, her lessons are so clear, I want to make sure I see more of them. Yeah. But if I am now then 10 videos in, you're watching my family, no one's following that. Yeah. So that is my strategic tip. Yeah, I like that. You can digress from your niche. You can like divert, whatever, like zigzag. Yeah. It's probably slower growth if you do that. I always say it's a fact.
Versus if every video
video was a lesson, I probably would grow my following faster. But that would take away the joy, would suck the joy out of my social media. Yeah. So I refuse to do it. I'd rather slow and steady, and people get to know me more, and then they're like, oh my gosh, I didn't know that about her. And sometimes I twirl a baton, and they're like, you twirl a baton, you're so talented. Like so fun. And it's fun because it also makes the conversation more interesting for me.
Yeah, no, I have struggled with this because over time I've gone from basically feeling like I just want to post whatever I want to post. Yeah. And there's influencers who do that. You know, there's people out there who they go to a party, they post the party. They go to a soccer game, you know,
good whatever. For them. Yeah. They're lifestyle influencers.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's not that it's impossible to do that. And I've struggled with people having conversations about, oh, you need to have a niche. You need to be educating people. Because I'm like, oh, but the people that I follow are just funny comedians. Yeah. And I've really had a lot of thoughts about that, and over time I've realized that I can post all kinds of different things, but I can still have it in a structure. Yes. And so that what you're saying is very is feeding my theory there.
Yeah, there you go.
You know, so that's why I feel like with my Instagram at least, because TikTok I do use kind of like a little bit like I'm just going to post fun stuff.
Whatever, more random.
Practice. It's like my practice space. And then
that's a good way to think about it.
Instagram is I have my sketches. For my feed at least, I have my sketches. I have my on the street content. Right. And then I have my musical comedy. And then in my story, I can post whatever I want.
Yes, absolutely. Always be free in the story. So I want to say something about what you mentioned about the education, and I have to be teaching people. Yeah. So here's what I want to say about that. Yeah. So adding value, because I will say my content, people follow me because I'm adding value to their life in some way. I'm teaching them something. But adding value is not necessarily teaching.
Yeah, right.
Adding value is, you've made me laugh today. Yeah. You've made me feel something today. You've made me understand something a little better today. Yeah. Oh my gosh, I can relate to you, and now I feel more seen today. Yeah. So adding value, I know a lot of people right away think they got to do a lesson or they got to teach them. That just happens to be what I do because I'm really good at it, and I have to deliver what I know that I'm meant to do. Yeah. And that is that. Yeah. And I love doing it. So yay.
No, but I thought about that too, because I feel like I think education sometimes, not that it's the easiest to do, but it's the easiest connection people make sometimes.
Yes, it seems more basic. It's
They're
like
oh, I'm going to provide value. I'm going to teach people how to save money, when maybe that's not authentic to them. And so what maybe is funny is making funny videos about money.
Yeah, and about how I can't save money or something like that. It's more relatable.
More authentic and more relatable. And I think that's a big lesson that I've learned, because I, for a while, was like, I'm going to do side hustle success content.
Oh, I like it.
So like I was posting all kinds of stuff about my side hustles and here's how I do it and here's what you can do, and also like motivational kind of content, and it was fine, but I really hated it.
You hated it, so you can't be doing it then.
I didn't want to be restricted to it.
Yes.
And so when I started doing the musical comedy and posting funny stuff and even my stories that are like, I love my content that's like, come to my show tonight.
Yeah.
Because I love posting that it makes me so happy.
Yeah, that you have a show.
I have a show tonight. And I would love to just tell my younger self, like, that's my story. You know, like that
Right.
I'm posting, hey, I have a show tonight. It's a queer comedy festival show. And like, there's going to be 40 people in the audience kind of thing. But I really do appreciate that you can have a structure and a niche, but also post whatever you want.
Of course.
You know?
Sometimes those are the ones that will hit when I'm least expecting it.
Yeah.
Which always is a fun surprise too.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't care if this gets views. I'm just posting it. That's fine. And then all of a sudden, that's the one that got the views, and I get a kick out of it. So.
I recently had a video. I have 2.2 million views on it. And
that's in Instagram or TikTok?
On TikTok.
Oh, nice.
And it was just this idea that I had. It was so random, and I haven't been able to totally recreate it, but basically the New York Times published a kind of like a infographic about the Trump trial jury.
Okay.
And it basically just said, like, this is how many men there are, this is how many women there are, this is how many people are in education, like just like some infographic like information that was public out there, and the New York Times turned it into an infographic.
Okay.
So then, and it was slides. So it was like 7 are women, 5 are men, 7 are this, whatever. And I just turned that into a song, and I recorded it.
Oh, that's funny.
I recorded it.
That's very funny.
On my computer, and I had never recorded a song like that, but I just recorded it, and then I did a bunch of layers with my voice, and so I just recorded it. I don't know why I thought of it or like whatever, but then I posted it, and I literally had the thought, like, this is not good.
Really?
Like, I literally was kind of like, this is kind of risky content. Like, I felt like it's either I had no idea.
So how did
it go?
And that has 2.2 million.
And then it just started growing, and the more people that commented, the more I felt confident.
What's
in
the comments like? Are they positive, or did you have a lot of negative engagement?
They're pretty neutral toward me.
Okay,
it's more about the story.
Yeah, which is good.
Yeah,
because you don't want them
good.
attacking you.
It's either this is a banger, this is a great song, like put this on Spotify, which I did, or it's just conversation about the trial and everything.
How hilarious.
And so it got 2.2 million views, and I love it.
That's a very funny idea.
Yeah.
So maybe that's, as crazy as it sounds, maybe that's actually a thing to do.
Yeah. So I've tried to do more, but I need the news stories, you know, like I need the news infographics. And so I'm looking for more and more of those.
Did you do something with the Travis and Taylor Swift thing about him showing up at her concert? And because maybe it's not necessarily infographics. Maybe it's just headlines about something.
Headlines,
or text, or I don't know, video.
Like something
I don't know.
where I'm kind of, because it can't be a
You're
full
relaying
article.
I know.
But headlines would be good.
Headlines
That's a good
funny.
one.
Yeah.
Because I did one where I actually, as a response to that video, I took all the comments, because one of the stats was this many live above 59th Street and this many live below 59th Street. And all the comments of people from outside of New York are like, what does that mean? What does it mean to be from above or below 59th Street?
So you did a response. Good for you.
And screenshotted those and put them into just a slideshow again. And then I just, they were all different comments. So I made a song about what does it mean to be from 59th Street. And that one did well too.
You're onto something.
Yeah,
here
so
now.
I think I need to do more of those, but I like the relevancy of the news.
Yeah,
it's kind of like, remember auto-tune the news when they would auto-tune.
Yes, I do.
News?
I do.
It's kind of like a more kind of a modern take on that.
That's a great idea.
So I want to do more of that.
I think more of that. We're brainstorming, and it's happening right now.
I know.
This is so good. I love when we can solve
just
things.
Here coming up with ideas.
Oh, I love it.
Do you do that with people a lot? Like, just come up with ideas?
Yes. Well, I do it with my family a lot, because my son Tommy is my oldest. He's in the midst of doing something now that he's trying to do this game side hustle thing, and every time we're together, we're brainstorming about it. And I like light up when I'm in that kind of a brainstorming session, because I want to help that person. And then I realize because I've never thought I was creative. I've been a producer my whole life, and the producer is the organizer. So, but I've worked around creative people. So I think I've become creative, or it's been unleashed in me just from being around it. Yeah. And so now I find myself being the one that's got like all the ideas, and I'm not embarrassed to throw out a shitty idea.
Right. No, you can't be.
No, I don't care. Yeah. It's like, oh, that was a bad idea, but whatever. Yeah. You know, maybe it spurs on the next good idea. Yeah. So I love it. I love a brainstorming session.
Do you find that people get really fired up after talking to you?
Yes.
Me too. I remember one time I realized this. I was at Cold Stone with a college friend in college. I was still in college, and she was talking about how she wanted to start a blog. And by the end of she was like, "We have to go. I need to go start this blog."
I love that.
And it's just so fun. I love.
So you just love that.
I know. It's just so fun to like fire people up and get people excited.
So funny because. Okay, 2 things about this. Yeah. I have a friend, Alicia, who's like, I need to see you because I need some good vibes or some energy. Like, people want me to hang out with them because then after it they feel good and they're so excited about whatever. But the other thing also is, I lost it, but it was something Julie was going to I got it back. So when Julie talks about, we did the introvert extrovert episode, we were talking about what makes an introvert and an extrovert. Oh yeah. This came up again yesterday because I said, sometimes I get so spiraling about all the things, like I have almost productivity anxiety. I have productivity anxiety. Yeah. That I have so many things to do, and I think I can get all these things done. Mm-hmm. And then even though each thing is supposedly only going to take 10 minutes because it's this digital thing and that, like I start spiraling and I'm like, I can't get anything done because I'm just overwhelmed like that. So she was calling it productivity anxiety. And I said, this is good. I like this. We coined this phrase. Yeah. But I said, but the other day I left the apartment because I said, I can't. I'm almost losing it. And I had to go meet someone for coffee, my friend Megan. So I left and I met with Megan and we ended up hanging out for 2 hours. And I felt so good after because I was out and I was social. And Julie's like, yeah, because you're an extrovert and you and you get energy. You get energy from people. And I'm like, oh, okay. So that confirms it. But it was such an interesting thing because for me, it's like the giving and getting of energy in real time. Like what we're doing now, this could be a 5-hour podcast. I could never leave.
Yeah, right. I know.
I'm never leaving.
No, I know. We could sit here forever.
Give me a pillow.
Oh my gosh.
This is so fun.
But we did do a great job today. I'm so excited to have had you on the podcast.
I enjoyed it.
Because I feel like I'm talking to a celebrity, which is so fun.
That's crazy.
1.1 million followers.
That's crazy. Woo.
B, I do feel such a connection to you as like I feel like you're my New York mom.
Okay, yes.
And
I love that.
My mom is in California, and she's a wonderful mom, but she's just in California. So
and you could be my New York kid because Julie's in California.
Yeah, exactly. And I just love learning from you and hearing what you have to say about TikTok and stuff.
I love it.
So where can people find you? How can they support you?
Thank you.
What can they do if they heard you on Life in Bold and fell in love?
Oh, I love it. Okay. So first up, I'm going to go straight up to my website because hellosocialize.com is where I have now housed everything. Yeah. And Julie and I now we have newsletter, podcasts, tutorials, workshops, courses. Yeah. Everything is on there. You can even find the podcast through the website. Yeah. So we finally did a nice housing of everything. And so that's my main place to find the stuff that I'm doing and the way that I'm teaching. But my personal Instagram is @themothership. My personal TikTok is @themothership, and that is both spelled with a U. Yes. Because I'm the mothership with a U because it's cooler.
Yeah,
actually,
it is
because
cooler.
I couldn't get the O when I was trying to do my business back in the day. Yeah. But it worked out for me.
Yeah, and I love following you.
Thank you.
You just are always posting such funny stuff and like trying out new equipment, which I always find really interesting.
I like for people to be on the journey of learning with me. So when horizontal videos came out.
Oh, right. I remember that.
I was like, I'm going to do a test and I'm going to do 5 tries until I get this right. And I posted them all and I never took them down.
I know.
I never took them down.
And I think as a result of your videos, I also tried some horizontal videos.
Yeah, it's interesting.
And I try, 30-minute video. And now you can do like an hour video. Yes. So I'm trying it all because then I'm like, well, what if I just post this podcast?
Oh my God. Will you post
We should. Yeah. We should try it with our episode.
I love that. Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, thank you so much for listening to Life in Bold.
Thank you so much, too, for
being
here.
So fun to have you.
I really enjoyed it.
You can follow the podcast at Life in Bold Pod on Instagram and TikTok and YouTube. And you can go to lifeinboldpod.com for all the recent episodes. And I'm so excited for this to come out.
Same. And go see him in comedy in real life because he's very funny and very fun.
Oh, thank you.
Love you.
Yay.
You're awesome. Thanks for having me.
Love you too. We're awesome. See you later.
Bye.